Aye.
Reinhardt,
Here.
Maris Castillo.
Here. All right, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Reinhardt, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance while the rest of us mute?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And you may have noticed on our agenda today, there has been one addition, and that we are adding the land acknowledgement to our agenda moving forward. As you know, at Ramsey County, in all of our public meetings, in our new employee orientation, we have picked up the tradition of doing a land acknowledgement. And I thought it appropriate that we do that here as well and have it printed each week in our board packets for the Ramsey County Commissioners. So we're going to bring it online here this morning as a land acknowledgement moving forward. And I'm going to read it as well. And then from here on out, it will be posted, and we will read it probably about once a month. So not at every meeting, but it'll always be posted, and it keeps us grounded in the work that we're doing as we move forward. So every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to make the history that led to this moment. Some are brought here against their will, some are drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We are standing on ancestral lands of the Dakota people. We want to acknowledge the Ojibwe, the Ho-Chunk, and other nations of people who also call this place home. We pay respects to their elders past and present. Please take a moment to consider the treaties made by the tribal nations that entitle non-Native people to live and work on traditional Native lands. Consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. Thank you. And I know all the commissioners at some time or another have said that we should do this. So we're doing it at the request of all of you. So thank you very much for bringing that up again. Now we'll move into our agenda. We have the agenda of January 25th before you for approval.
So moved, Madam Chair. So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Carter. Thank you very much. Any discussion on the agenda? All right, roll call, please.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Fretham,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
Ortega,
Aye.
and Maris Castillo.
Aye. Now we have the minutes for January 18th presented for approval.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Ortega.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire. Any discussion on the minutes? All right, roll call, please.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Fretham,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
Ortega,
Aye.
and Maris Castillo.
Aye. Now we have an exciting proclamation, as all of ours are, celebrating Korean New Year that Commissioner Carter will present. And we invite our guests who are joining us to turn their cameras on and join us at this moment. Go ahead, Commissioner Carter.
Thank you very much. It is a joy and a delight to be able to present this proclamation today in celebration of the Korean New Year and in celebration of the Korean people who have joined us here in Ramsey County. I want to recognize that we have community members on the line with us, and I will be introducing Pa Sha Po, who is here to accept the recognition of this proclamation, along with Name Tu, Pa Tin, and Vic Kim, I believe. And of course, if you are speaking, please introduce yourselves to us. As you speak, I will begin by reading the proclamation. which goes as follows. Whereas the Karen came to Minnesota starting in the early 2000s as refugees from Myanmar to pursue the American dream of building better futures for their families. An estimated 17,000 Karen live in Ramsey County, in St. Paul and surrounding cities. And whereas the Karen New Year occurs on the first day of the month of Piato in the Karen calendar, which calculates their New Year's Day from the beginning of their historic migration from Mongolia to Myanmar over 2,700 years ago. And whereas the Karen New Year marks the end of harvesting one crop of rice and beginning and planting for the next rice crop. Rice is a staple of the Karen diet and holds significant importance to the Karen people. And whereas the Karen New Year celebrates the rich and unique cultural heritage, promotes the Karen language, literature, and traditions, and creates opportunities for others to enjoy and build relationships with the Karen community. And whereas the Karen people have given so much of themselves to help make Minnesota a vibrant, diverse, honest, progressive, and supportive place to live. And whereas Ramsey County recognizes the Karen community in their strength, determination, resilience, and value while committing to serve the Karen people who reside within Ramsey County. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners declares January 25th, 2022 as Karen New Year Day in Ramsey County. And be it further proclaimed, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners encourages residents to celebrate the Karen New Year by learning about Karen history, cultivating cultural understanding, developing relationships, and supporting our Karen neighbors in Ramsey County and beyond. Thank you. And the proclamation is signed by the chair of the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners, all the commissioners, and also our county manager. I'd like to turn this over then in celebration and joy to our guest, led by Pa Shapo.
Hello, I am also community leader, community volunteer. I am too want to thank Ramsey County for the 2022 Karen New Year's Day proclamation. It is very meaningful to have our Karen New Year's Day recognized by Ramsey County. Ramsey County social worker Ameya for the creating and submitting the 2022 New Year's proclamation to Ramsey County. Your decision to supporting the Karen community is extraordinary. For the Karen, our culture, our history, what makes us who we are, is partially encapsulated in the Karen New Year's Day celebration. By recognizing the importance of the Karen New Year Day, Ramsey County is the showing their appreciation and support for the Karen community. Where has been so many times where life can make you think that no one cares about you. A happy hand from a friend, a relative, or community leader can make all the difference in the world. Ramsey County is being that friend today to the Karen community. Ramsey, you are observing the importance of our culture and our tradition. You, for the Karen assisting others in need is the second nature. We consider hospitality to be a part of common courtesy. By a proclamation January 2nd, 2022, Karen New Year's Day, Ramsey County has extended a kindness to the Karen community that we will not soon forget. Reputation and standing is very meaningful to the Karen, and when the county recognizes the community, it had to raise our level of the standing to those of our peers. Let us continue to build together a better future for the Karen community and for the Ramsey County. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you so much for being here with us and allowing us to celebrate the Korean New Year with you. I want to also give the chance for Ameya, who is a Ramsey County social worker, who brought the proclamation forward. Thank you, Ameya, and wanted to give you a moment if you had a few words to say.
Good morning, Madam Chair, County Commissioners, and County Deputy Manager. I am Amiya. On behalf of the caring community, I want to thank Ramsey County Board of Commissioners for bestowing on us the 2022 the Korean New Year Day proclamation. It is once again an honor to proudly be here to accept the Korean New Year Day proclamation. Our community is learning to thrive in Ramsey County, and the support the county is showing to our burgeoning community is extraordinary. While the Korean community members are focusing on building a brighter future for ourselves and our families, every step we take along our journey presents new opportunities and challenges. By working together, we can accomplish more than any of us could on our own. Ramsey County has received the Korean community with open arms and welcomed us without reservation. We need to keep that solidarity and support alive to ensure the continued success of the caring community in Ramsey County. As a Ramsey County social worker, I know how important it is for a community to feel supported by their county. We each must strengthen each other by using our talents and skills to develop cooperation, understanding, and trust and shared vision and mission of Ramsey County. We all must contribute to make the world a better place for each of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amaya, and thank you very much. All the commissioners are celebrating with the Korean community, and Ramsey County is so happy that you chose Ramsey County to be your home. So thank you very much, and happy celebration. May it be a prosperous new year for all of you. We'll do one more. Okay, we will move on now in our agenda to COVID updates. County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'll finish with 2 updates, but we'll start with public health. As normal, I'll turn it over to Director Holly.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, County Manager O'Connor. It's great to be back here with you on this cold Tuesday morning. Everyone is staying warm and healthy. So Omicron, as I've mentioned many times before, remains the dominant COVID variant across the United States. Within Region 5, accounting for approximately 99.3% of new infections in the United States, according to a recently revised CDC model. With high levels of community transmission, not only in Minnesota, but across the United States, a positivity rate of 27.2%, a 7-day moving average of around 1,400 per 100,000 cases in the US, and more than 140,000 Americans in hospitals with COVID-19. I want to shift to some good news this morning. We do provide good news sometimes here. Really excited about this opportunity to partner with the Minnesota Department of Health and the wonderful team at St. Paul Ramsey County Public Health. We will be launching our community testing site this Thursday, January 27th, and that time will be from 2 to 6 p.m. at Frogtown Community Center. That's 230 Como Avenue in St. Paul. This clinic will take place every Tuesday and Thursday for at least 6 weeks. So that's through March 3rd. We'll be offering up to 300 tests to start, and we will accommodate walk-ins as we can. So the appointments, we ask that people make appointments. That information, sounds like, is already out on our website. So kudos to our communications team for pivoting very quickly. Depending on the space, we could expand the number of tests offered for future clinics. So we're going to get started this Thursday. So please spread the word. I also just want to mention that we've just learned about a federal COVID-19 testing site that's also opening, I think today. It's nearby the site that we're opening. This site will open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day, as I mentioned, starting today through February 14th. And so, of course, we will assess how this impacts our current location, since we are moving forward with this plan for now, and our and our site will actually run beyond February 14th. So I think you're going to see a lot of testing sites hopefully come online here in the state, which is excellent. We can expand our capacity to provide tests to community because we know that's one of the most important mitigation strategies as our vaccines, masking, and making sure that we're following our recommended isolation and quarantine time periods. One of the things that I just want to stress is that this is a huge partnership, and we give a kudos to the Minnesota Department of Health for this partnership. But I also want to give a shout out to the team of people that moved very quickly to get this all set up. So of course, Laura Anderson, Dr. Ogawa, Mark Jackson, Brian Brown, Diane Holmgren, and the entire team took a great deal of time to get this launched. I also want to add that department leadership and many staff have stepped up to help staff this clinic, and so along with our MRC volunteers. So it's no small feat to launch another testing site, but we are happy to do this here in our community and to be here as the public health department to do that. One other thing in the same line of testing is you may have heard that the federal government has launched a home testing program. This launched on January 18th. So every home in the United States is eligible to order up to 4 free at-home COVID-19 tests. These tests are completely free. I can't stress that enough. And when you order, the order should usually ship within 7 to 12 days. And so to order these tests, you can just simply go to covidtest.gov. So a number of testing options are opening up for our communities, not only in Minnesota, but across the United States. Last week, we shared a number of COVID-19 mitigation recommendations with our school partners that include information on vaccinations, the importance of universal masking, testing, quarantine, and isolation guidelines. We know that our schools are navigating very challenging times right now, and we're always here to provide that public health guidance and work together as we navigate this pandemic. A few weeks ago, I mentioned this, we were starting to increase our PPE distribution to many departments within our agency with KN95 masks and surgical masks as the new mask guidance has changed. I just want to stress for employees providing direct patient care and/or services to our community or staff that are working in highly congregate settings or working in close proximity to one another, we encourage that people wear a KN95 mask. If that's not available, certainly double up on those surgical masks. And you can also wear a surgical mask and a cloth mask. So any mask is a good mask, but we really want to encourage people to get their hands on the mask that we're able to provide. So kudos to the logistics team for getting that out to our departments. Now I'd like to shift over to Ms. Laura Anderson to continue our local update. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Holly. I'm going to go ahead and ask Mike Lindsay to start off by sharing with us actually the case dashboard. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. So Ramsey County did hit an unfortunate milestone over the past week. We have identified more than 100,000 COVID-19 cases in our community since the beginning of this pandemic. We recognize, if you scroll down a little bit further, Mike, one of the primary reasons I think for hitting this unfortunate milestone is just this ongoing surge of Omicron in our community, obviously. As of just yesterday, CDC was reporting Ramsey County with about 1,459 cases per 100,000. What that means is we're seeing about 1,400 cases reported to us each day. There have been some news reports around lags in laboratory reporting. We do not think that we will see a continued increase in cases because of those lab report lags. I feel like we're kind of sitting in a stasis at this time. Our positivity rate is at 21.7%, again, among those using a laboratory confirmed test, excuse me. Mike, if you could go ahead and move over to the vaccine dashboard. We also, of note, just hit another important milestone, I suppose, in that more than 400,000 residents have received at least one COVID-19 vaccine. So that is some good news for us. Locally, our department continues to offer vaccine at 3 primary clinics as well as pop-up clinics. We're going to keep moving that forward alongside testing. For the week of January 23rd, actually this week, we intend to distribute about 700 doses. This is the same as last week. So a little bit of a evening out after the holiday demand. We have given a little bit more than 3,200 booster shots at our existing clinics and a little bit over 5,000 pediatric doses. So doses to kiddos ages 5 to 11. And obviously we will continue to provide vaccine opportunities for any individual 5+, whether it's a booster or finishing a series. So check out that Ramsey County URL to hook up with a clinic. We continue to provide that $50 Visa gift card for individuals who are seeking their first dose. And we are welcoming a number of student nurses as volunteers at our clinics. We have Metro State volunteers at our vaccine clinics, and we're also working with University of Minnesota Moorhead, I believe, to potentially support some of the work at the testing clinic. That's all I have to share with you today, and I will pass the mic to Dr. Ogawa.
Thank you, Incident Commander Anderson, Madam Chair, County Commissioners. I did want to start a little bit off by mentioning that we're still seeing, although we're seeing some national improvements in numbers here in Minnesota, we are still seeing, rising rates, and our hospitals are still at, in many ways, capacity for beds, capacity for staff, and continuing to see that strain our system. Unfortunately, the other thing that has happened in the past few weeks is that we have recognized now that one of the main treatments that we have for people who are infected with COVID is no longer effective against the Omicron variant, and that is monoclonal antibodies. We, earlier in the pandemic, monoclonal antibodies and the IV infusion of those was shown to help dramatically those who were not vaccinated, or even if they were vaccinated, reduce even more their need for hospitalization. But the number of changes and mutations within the Omicron variant has made those antibodies, unfortunately, not effective. So distribution and even manufacturing of those monoclonal antibodies has been halted right now. Paxlovid, which is one of the oral medications, is active against Omicron, but there are still exceptionally limited supplies. And I always point out that while Paxlovid was very helpful in reducing hospitalization and severe disease, vaccination and booster is still significantly more protective than the use of Paxlovid once an individual is infected. And so we cannot stress enough that vaccination and boosters. So now the other pieces we admit, I admit as a provider that we need to see individuals getting those booster doses. Booster doses, a third dose or a booster dose has been shown to continue to protect against hospitalization at least that 90% level. And it seems to persist at least 4 months after the booster, and there continues to be ongoing studies. A number of people are asking me about a fourth shot or a second booster. The largest study thus far, which was done in Israel, does not seem to show added protection above that from the third booster. The antibodies do rise, but they do not seem to rise significantly higher than with a third booster. And so as of today, and again, we're recognizing that every day is different again in the COVID world. As of today, no one is looking for to a fourth dose currently. Speaking of vaccination, though, Pfizer continues to evaluate a COVID vaccine for those under 5 years old. I know there are a lot of people waiting for this one as well. The study actually goes down as low as 6 months of age. The initial study was looking at 2 doses of 3 micrograms. Just reminding that the adult dose was 30 micrograms, 5 to 12 was 10 micrograms, and this is looking at a 3 microgram dose. Unfortunately, the initial evaluation piece that occurred after 2 doses did not show the same immune response as the previous groups. And so they are adding a 3rd dose of 3 micrograms and then reevaluating the immune response after that. Essentially, just as we've been doing throughout the pandemic, we are back to really, weekly changes in what we're seeing, continuing ongoing studies of interventions and vaccinations that we're looking at in medications, and continuing to see how things evolve. I'm going to pass it back to, as always, we're available for questions, but I will turn it back over to County Manager O'Connor.
Thanks, Director Holly and Dr. Ogawa, Incident Commander Anderson. 2 final updates, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Like other care center facilities across the state, we are going to be receiving National Guard assistance beginning today. We're going to have a 9 a.m. arrival. We'll be seeing 11 individuals from the National Guard supporting the care center in Maplewood. They'll be doing work around testing and exit strategies, fit testing, and some other pieces around lift support and other pieces. They are not certified nurses, but they'll be providing some of the backbone support that allow our other individuals to remain in the direct care roles they need. And it's a mission very similar to what you've been reading about other places. And so while the steps we've taken to limit census and control for staffing have had an impact, it continues to show both the remarkable work our staff are putting in every day to try and continue to serve through this challenging time, as well as just the continued challenges that this surge has brought. Finally, in the vaccine and testing update space, I wanted to give you a numbers update. As of now, as of this morning, we had data run again. 95.5% of employees had certified to their vaccination status. So only 4.5% were not in compliance with the policy. And I'll say a little bit more to that. Of the 95.5 who have certified status, what we know is that we see a vaccination rate a little above 84%. So about 11.5 are in the area of saying they are not fully vaccinated and are testing currently. There's that 4.5% yet to certify. We've been receiving tests. There were 130 tests in the last period. 17 employees of those 130 indicated or found out they had COVID. And so we continue to see a high rate of positive tests that come back. There's lots of different data at different levels we can go to, but ultimately here, a key point there. So there are 276 total employees where we have not received certification for vaccination status. That makes up that remaining amount of that percentage. Of that, 24 have indicated that they're fully vaccinated and uploaded proof of vaccination, but forgot to certify. So they just didn't check the box in the step. Okay, so I consider those individuals as ones that will be addressed in a positive way here. This is what the written step goes through, is it forces us all to do our final homework. 19 staff were intermittent. They're currently not working, and it's not sure that they will, but if they came back, we would work on those 19 if people were to come back. 51 are on a leave status of some kind. Therefore, while technically we're measuring that to understand it, they are not subject to the policy while out on leave. And so those numbers also fall off. So you can quickly see that you end up with almost 100 of the 276 that sit in a spot where their status is actually pretty well explained. There are 182 employees then that remain not certified. We are working directly on that. And as I mentioned, disciplinary steps going forward, these would be the 182 I am most concerned about in the moment. Of the 182, 134 of them reside in the sheriff's office. So we are seeing a localized challenge of compliance at this point. We continue to work directly with the sheriff and his leadership team to seek compliance. So in terms of next steps, we've been doing the written certification. That the written work had to be done yesterday in terms of the first step of discipline. If an employee continues to remain out of compliance, starting on February 14th, they will receive a 5-day suspension. So we have between now and then to work to mitigate those efforts. Our goal is to start at the leadership levels of departments and work our way down. So if leaders are out of compliance, they would be the first to receive those suspensions, as we need to establish policy compliance from the top on down. And we'll continue to monitor for individuals who did not upload proper proof of vaccination or test results. So we continue to go forward. I just wanted to spend a few minutes walking through the numbers and where we sit as we moved into the next phase now, which is working directly with employees to avoid suspensions, which is clearly the goal. And we're hopeful that we can continue to see progress. With that, Madam Chair, we stand for any questions or comments you all may have.
Thank you all for a really informative update. I do have a couple of hands up. I'll start with Commissioner Ortega and go to Commissioner McGuire and then Reinhardt. Commissioner Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is, as usual, a question for Dr. Ogawa. With the testing, I think there's so much confusion over over-the-counter testing, which ones are valid, which ones aren't, if people have to travel, or if they think they have COVID, over the counter. I know my daughter's a school teacher, and I know the test she gets over the counter and testing they have at the school are two completely different testing, and one is more valid than the other. Could you just clarify all of that and which is the testing that we're getting through the mail? Is that any different than the ones over the counter? Or, now there are various testing and people, I think it just needs more and more clarification.
Commissioner Ortega, Madam Chair, this actually, admittedly, is a very complex question. I'm gonna try and do some due diligence in explaining some of the differences. What's difficult about the ones that are rapid antigen tests? So these are often the ones that are available over the counter. Binax now is probably the most common that we see, but there's hundreds of other companies that have utilized the same method to create the same antigen tests. So these are the ones that are rapid, usually at home where you use a nasal swab. Almost all of them are self-collected nasal swabs. You mix with some reagents and then you get a result right away. Those are the same kind of tests that the federal government will be sending out through the mail. These are rapid antigen tests. These are the only ones that actually are approved for individual use, someone without without laboratory training. It's really difficult to say which of those are better. These are all approved under emergency use authorization. These were all compared to the gold standard, which is the polymerase chain reaction or the molecular test. And when they're tested one for one against that, that's what the companies are reporting. So in the company's tests, they took somebody who they knew was infected and they compared it to the PCR test. Those are the 97% that we're seeing, 95% that we're seeing. When those same tests were tested out in the public with unknowns, that's where their sensitivity and their dropped dramatically. And that's where, when I was talking about, some of them unfortunately have been shown to up to 70% inaccurate in finding positive tests. So we have to be very careful. They were also designed to be used on a regular basis. So 2 tests in a row, separated by at least 24 hours. However, they're still tests. and a positive really does tell us that you have COVID and that you're very likely infectious. So those positives really matter. And I still think they're good tests. For screening though, and for people who really need to know if they're positive, then the molecular tests are better. Now, those molecular tests take a small amount of DNA and they amplify it. And so that's why even a tiny bit is that if it's available, will turn their test positive. Those are the saliva tests that we can order through the state that can be mailed to us and picked up at your home. Those are the mass testing sites through Vault. Those are a number of the tests that are run at other clinics and also at Walgreens and CVS and pharmacies. So the PCR tests or the molecular tests are what we call in medicine the gold standard. They are the tests by which everything else has been measured against. And so when I talk to people, I tell them they are the best. I consider them the best and the most sensitive and the most specific. But they take time to run and do, and right now, testing on any level is testing. I hope that was helpful.
That was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for all of your work. I think this is for you, Dr. Ogawa, or whoever else would like to answer this. So we've heard about, of course, how important the booster shots are now. So the three shots. So when we see our numbers of all of our residents, or in Ramsey County getting at least one vaccine, what's our number of people that have actually been fully vaccinated, which I would consider the 2 shots and the booster, I'm guessing. But tell me if I'm wrong about this. I mean, we really want people to be fully vaccinated, which is the 3 shots. And I'm actually curious, sort of, when we've asked our employees to be vaccinated, are we saying you need to be fully vaccinated, you need the 2 shots and the booster? I'm just curious about the words that we're using for this. So anyone can comment on that. And I'm wondering, like, I'm going on a conference to DC, and you have to be vaccinated, but does it just mean 1 or does it mean 3? So I'm just curious how people are reading these.
Sarah Matas Castillo, Commissioner McGuire, I'm happy to answer that question. So locally, the proportion of residents who have received the initial series is somewhere in the 70s. I'll take a look. It's relatively high. We lean on our partners at the Minnesota Department of Health to provide breakdowns for age, as well as some detail around percentage of individuals receiving booster. What I will say, though, is the language coming from the CDC right now is all about being up to date. So making sure that you have received that 2-dose series, and if you're eligible for a booster, that truly is the way they're leaning. But unless for the purposes of employment, I think the majority of employers are just going to stick with 2 doses as fully vaccinated. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair. I just was curious about what that was meaning. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a couple of questions going back to the testing. I believe that it's probably worth repeating, at least I hope I got it right, is that it's covidtest.gov to get the tests mailed to your home. And I thought what was said was that you could get 4 per household, but I thought it was 4 per person in the household. So I wanted to double check that. Or is that okay? I'm seeing everybody say no. Okay. And then also,
Commissioner Reinhardt, you have it correct. So it is 4 per household. And one thing that I want to note is that if I think, and maybe this has changed since last week, I think they needed to figure out the type of resident too. So, or residents. If you live in a house, one address is counted. So I think there were some glitches we were hearing if you lived in a multi housing, if you live in an apartment building, there's multiple, apartment numbers. So hopefully that was fixed, but it is COVID-19 test.gov where people can get tests. I also just want to mention, just in line with Madam Chair, Commissioner Ortega and Commissioner Reinhardt around testing. We know that right now access to testing is really important. And so we are encouraging people, if you can get your hands on the PCR test, as Dr. Ogawa has mentioned, that's the gold standard. But we really want to encourage people to also utilize those rapid tests and really follow the instructions and just know your information. We know, and Incident Commander Anderson can certainly speak to this, but positivity, right? The rate of positivity, Incident Commander Anderson, if you want to talk about that a little bit with testing, I think that would also be helpful for the community to know. But just noting that accessibility to testing right now is really important. So we just want the community also to know that. Laura?
Yeah, I mean, the reality right now is that our labs are still backed up. There are issues with staffing. And I think the last I checked, the average delays in receipt of a PCR test were somewhere between 5 and 9 days. So that's just not practical for most of us. What that means is using a rapid antigen test when you have symptoms, somewhere between 70 and 80% of positives associated with that rapid antigen are going to be correct positives. So it's really a good tool to have available as a community member, a family, a member of a family with school-aged kids. Those rapid antigen tests are a good option for us.
Thank you. And could you restate the website? I think I misstated it to begin with.
So COVID-19 test.gov. I can also send that along, the link to that, and then multiple sites that have opened up this week, including ours.
And then I have two more questions. I don't know if you said that the federal location was close to our Frogtown location, but I don't know that you gave that location.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Reinhardt, the location is Frogtown Community Center, 230 Como Avenue. The one that, are you mentioning the federal site?
Yes.
Nearby, I'll send that along. I don't have the exact address unless Commander Anderson or Dr. Ogawa have it, but I can certainly send that along with the list of testing sites that are opening this week.
And I assume all of that is on our website as well, or will be.
Correct.
Okay, and then the only other thing that I want to do is on a personal note, and that is, since my brother Gerald and his wife Vicky are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary on Saturday, and I may not be able to go depending on what's happening with COVID. And as I said, you know what? We used to say that, well, we'll see what happens next week. And now we're saying, well, we'll see what happens tomorrow. So who knows? But just in case, and I quite frankly think it's unlikely that there will be a large gathering. And not that it was going to be a huge gathering anyway, just family and friends. But I want to wish my brother Gerald and his wife Vicky Reinhardt a happy 50th wedding anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt, and happy anniversary to your brother and his wife. And I don't see any other hands up, so we are going to move on to our agenda. Again, thank you very much to our whole public health team for these updates and keeping us informed and our community vaccinated and tested. So thank you for your work. All right, we're going to move on to administrative items. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move administrative item number 4, which is an amendment to the single source agreement with RS Eden for Sentence to Service Operations Program. Item number 5 is the 2022-2023 Community Corrections Comprehensive Plan and Grant Agreement with the Minnesota Department of Corrections. And item number 6 is reinstating February 15th, 2022 meeting to award the sale of 2022 Capital Improvement Bond Series 2022A. And I so move. There's a lot of 20s there in a row.
Yeah, so we have a motion and a second in discussion. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Bretham,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
Ortega,
Aye.
and Maris Castillo.
Aye. All right, thank you. We will move on to county connections. County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start with some good news that you've all heard, but we're going to do it again anyway. I sent an email yesterday on the final piece to it, but happy to report that AFSCME, our largest labor union in a county with many unions, concluded their membership ratification vote last Friday on the tentative agreement that I was excited to share with you a few weeks earlier. And we could not be more excited to report that all 9 bargaining units that were voting have voted to ratify and accept the tentative agreement, which means we have a 3-year agreement in place with all 9 of those bargaining units. It's a monumental outcome and a testament to the hard work of the AFSCME bargaining team in their education and working with their members. It's a recognition of members and their votes and confidence in this organization and our collective work forward together. And it's a sign of the great work of the labor management, labor relations team and their work to shepherd the entire process through. One of our many steps to being able to do good work on behalf of the community and on behalf of our employees is ensuring we continue to find ways to move forward together. And there's been a lot of headlines around us this year where that hasn't always, fortunately, been the case. But in this case, we're happy to say that is where we're at. And we look forward to building on this momentum as we work with the rest of our bargaining units as our work is not done for the year. So the county board on February 1st will see these agreements come before all of you in hopes that you all too will be accepting of them, as well as bringing forward the unrepresented employees agreements, which we wanted to hold until that same meeting so we can move it all at once. So very excited, and thank you for all the great words of encouragement. Thanks to our organization and celebration for everyone here. 2 other points to note today. I'll start with a happy note. I wanted to highlight that Director of Emergency Management, Judd Freed, was invited by the administrator of FEMA and the superintendent of the Emergency Management Institute to be among the inaugural members of a cohort of fellows in the newly created Federal Emergency Management Agency Vanguard Fellows Program. It's an opportunity for Dr. Freed to help to share what he has learned across 35 years in the field and 2 decades in working on national level issues as well, and an opportunity to pass that knowledge and wisdom along to the next generation of emergency management fellow. And hopefully Judd will be able to hire some of those fellows back here in Ramsey County. That's all I ask in return for your service to this appointment. But huge congratulations to Judd and a continued sign for our organization and community about the ways in which we have just outstanding leaders showing up every day in so many different areas. Finally, I'll end on a note of more sadness, but I wanted to highlight that, you know, in the continued headlines and stories we've seen around violence across our community, often gun-based violence that we have seen, these stories have touched many of our employees over the last number of weeks. And unfortunately, rarely a day has gone by where a few of us haven't been involved in a message or a text thread that reminds us that our employees live here and they work here and they are here. They're a part of this community with everyone else. And that leads to a lot of stories of unfortunate connections and moments of sadness, and a lot of moments for perseverance through these difficult moments of gun violence. Almost every headline we see has a personal connection into this organization in a way that touches all of us. And the last few weeks, more than many before it, have really just continued to remind us of that. And so I raise that to remind us of the human element of our work together. And I know that as our community grieves, we grieve along with them. And as we find a need to continue to find better solutions to ensure that this community is well connected and safe, it matters to all of us together. We don't want to get those messages and we don't want to continue to see those headlines. And so thank you for letting me share that today. It's all employees who have been impacted. I just know that we're all thinking about you and we wanted to give voice to that. And we know it's a difficult time for many. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, County Manager O'Connor. We will move into updates. from committee. So we're going to start with Commissioner Carter.
Thank you. And thank you very much. Again, I just really appreciate knowing of the work that's been done to conclude our contracts with AFSCME. We are so appreciative of the work of our staff, of employee representatives, all on behalf of all of us, our frontline workers, all our employees, and our community. And congratulations to Judd, who now can share his expertise with all of us, continuing concern for all our employees as well. Thank you to the county manager. I wanted to share that there's a lot that's been going on these past few weeks. Just very, very briefly, thank you also to our staff for the Day of Racial Healing, which they conducted both for our internal audience as well as for community. Last week, it is really helpful to continue to lift up our ways of connecting together and ensuring that we're all moving forward together. So I appreciate that, as well as the ability to attend a number of other meetings last week. I won't go into detail except to thank the public for the client session that they conducted by Zoom, the preview of the current upcoming legislative session, and also to note that it was very helpful also to attend the Ramsey County League of Local Governments meeting last Friday, as well as, and I know Commissioner McGuire will talk more about the AMC board meeting, but at all of these meetings regarding the legislative session and our interaction together, we were able to preview what will be collaboration and cooperation to work toward greater mental health and public safety priorities, and to look at the potential of request from the additional dollars that our state has access to this coming year. It's great to know the partnerships that we have to uplift those priorities. I also do want to mention that I attended the Bail Reform Executive Committee meeting this past Monday, and to lift up that there will be community engagement sessions, town halls coming up. They are currently scheduled now, and I don't have the dates in front of me, but they will be posted on our website, and I believe it's for mid-February. Seems like the 21st and the 22nd, and they will be at Arlington Library and the Rondo Library. I believe those are the dates. Please follow up by checking the website for those. But this is about the ability to ensure that we are advancing transformative actions where bail is concerned. Our public safety partners are working together in order to assure our steps and with our community, so that we are aligning with our community values as we look at the opportunity to, at the booking phase, create alternatives and work with community for the supports that are needed to help people remain in the community as opposed to in our jails. And so that is a big area of collaborative work for us. And I know all of us will be paying attention as it moves forward. The one other thing I might add is just that this past week I shared with all of you and with our community that I will not be running for re-election in 2022. Thank you very much. It's been, very mixed emotion kind of week around that. I am fully here through 2022, December 31st, 2022. I'm not taking off early. And so to continue the work, to uplift the work, to support our community and all of you is my goal through 2022. And then to be a very demanding constituent beyond and continuing support of the work that is being done here at Ramsey County. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Commissioner Fretham, and I didn't forget you this week.
Oh, but you could have. I have no update this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McDonough.
No report, Madam Chair.
Commissioner McGuire.
So thank you, Madam Chair. There's been a lot of community meetings, and Commissioner Carter's mentioned some of them, and I've seen a number of you at them. But just to give recognition, of course, to our local Roseville area schools, the School District 623 had their local government meeting where they were able to explain to us why they closed while they were, delaying school for 2 weeks just because of the upsurge in COVID cases and they didn't have enough staff and teachers to be there with the kids. And so it's just that reality that we all see in our communities. But it was a great meeting where they were able to explain to all of us at the local government level what was going on in their school district. Commissioner Carter mentioned the Ramsey County League of Local Governments meeting that we had that was legislators. A number of us were on that call, Commissioner. And it was great to hear the legislators. There were a lot of kudos, I will say, around Ramsey County, in our housing efforts and our affordable housing, and our working with people experiencing homelessness. And so I will say that it was a great conversation to listen to with our League of Local Governments. And on that note, we've just, as I've been saying, the League is looking at some collective work that we can move forward. We want to be more action oriented at the League of Local Governments. And so we're meeting this Wednesday or this Friday, a small group of us, to talk about how specifically they can help with Ramsey County's legislative agenda. And so that will revolve around some mental health issues, and we're actually going to bring around our community of care work too. We're going to present that to our cities and school districts within the county to ask them to add that to their legislative agendas as well. So that's in the works on that, and it's a good step forward for all of us that we work together in a more action-oriented way. I will say that also appreciated Goff's legislative session. I encourage everyone to do that in the future. That was a great primer on what's going on, and they are our local. They're helping us as contract lobbyists, and they did a great job there. The MELSA had their Board of Trustees meeting. That's our Metropolitan Library Association meeting. Moving forward in that work. AMC, we did have our executive session for our Association of Minnesota Counties, where we welcomed for his first meeting our new chair in 3 years, the second Vice President Neil Galswick, and so that's great. And then we did have our Board of Directors meeting on Friday, and Commissioner Carter was there. It was unfortunate; it was in person, so that was limited some people's involvement in that, and that's been a really huge topic of conversation among both AMC and NACO, our national association, of whether we do these meetings in person or virtually. And so we continue to have those conversations, and we welcome your input in that. I will say that at AMC on Friday, the in-person meeting, we did spend a fair amount of time talking about whether or not Minnesota should join the Western Interstate Region, which is it's a part of NACO, our national association. And so those conversations will continue to be had, and at the next board meeting, we'll be weighing in even more strongly. So I will be hoping to talk to a number of you about what our feelings are about us joining the Western region. I will say that we have Representative McCollum is having a field hearing tomorrow that a number of us are going to be at. I imagine that perhaps our chair, Mattis Castillo, will talk a little more about what we're going to be doing at that, but I know that you're speaking, I think, at that, Chair Mattis Castillo. The Capital Region Watershed's having their district event also on Wednesday, and the Loon Brighton League of Women Voters are having their conversations with constituents, as did the Roseville Area League had a conversation with mayors that a number of us sat in on, and it was interesting to hear the mayors pledge for their calls of equity and working on affordable housing, and a number of them were also grateful to Ramsey County for the work that we're doing. So the first day of session is January 31st, is this coming Monday. Wow. So the legislature is getting ready to be in session, and it promises to be an interesting one as it's redistricting, and a number of retirements have also been noted. And just to say how grateful we are, Commissioner Carter, for all of your work. We will dearly miss you, but we're glad you're here with one more year, and we know you'll stay in touch. So thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire. Commissioner Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quickly, the one thing I have to report, is our presentation before the Senate Bonding Committee. Commissioner Mara Castillo and Commissioner Reinhardt and myself had 45 minutes to present before the Senate Bonding Committee our projects. I want to thank the staff, Carrie and Josh, for doing such a tight presentation for us. So we got through it. I think it went very well. We were all very coordinated and did a good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ortega. I'm going to circle back to Commissioner McDonough before closing with Commissioner Reinhardt. Go ahead, Commissioner McDonough.
Yep, thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to weigh in on Commissioner McGuire's report on AMC, because Commissioner McGuire is a rep because of her leadership role, and Commissioner Carter is a rep because of her, she's the NACO rep for AMC, but I am the rep for this board. And I just wanted to report out that I did have a conversation with Julie Rang, the executive director, and Todd Patrick, the president, and I did not attend that meeting. I felt really strongly that we are not meeting in person. All the recommendations from our public health folks about, meetings, none of us, I believe, at least none of the Metropolitan Joint Powers boards that I sit on are meeting in person. I don't think any of them are. So we still got a lot of county boards and city councils around the state that are not meeting in person. And I felt it was setting a bad example for counties which have the responsibility of public health in this state to have an in-person meeting. I have the COVID weariness as much as everybody, and I have the desire to get back and interact and, shake hands and even hug someday. Unless we're vigilant and when we have the opportunities to set the example, it gets hard, right? And, President Patzert was very understanding. Julie Rang certainly is in a tough position because we've got county members on our board, as Mary Jo and Tony will tell you, that thing's totally different. But I did want to clarify with the board, as your rep to the AMC board, I did not attend that, and I did not attend because I believe we should have at least had I'm not a fan of hybrid options. I think they're clumsy and they don't work well. But I think we could have got through one more Zoom meeting as a board meeting and made sure that we continue to set an example as a public health responsibility for public health in the state. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonough. Commissioner Reinhardt.
I believe, Madam Chair, that Commissioner McGuire wanted to speak to that issue as well.
Go ahead, Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank Commissioner McDonough for his words. It was really helpful. It was great that you made the calls that you made, Commissioner McDonough. I've been speaking that same tone with AMC as well. It's really tough to get them to do the virtual, and I agree. I just wanted to say I appreciate your steadfastness to leading the example, and thank you for making the efforts that you did to try to get that to be changed. So just appreciate that, and we'll just continue to work on that. I had many long conversations myself with them, so thank you for adding your voice to that and for your work. And we felt that they so appreciate your involvement in those meetings. So they felt it when you were there. So, but we appreciate your dedication to your values. So.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire. And now, Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you. Well, one thing that I wanted to note was, first of all, we will definitely miss Commissioner Carter on this board after the end of this year. But Commissioner McDonough has also made the announcement. And so I want to acknowledge the work and the, it all depends on, I guess, who is elected, but regardless of who is elected, the leadership from Commissioner McDonough and Commissioner Carter will be missed on this board. We've done a lot of great things together, and I know that as a board, we are very cohesive in what we do and respectful. We can disagree, but we can be respectful and move forward and get things done for this county. And I'm sure that whoever replaces you will be part of that as well. But when I think about the transportation issues and the equity issues and housing, and we can name almost every part of what we do as a county, and Commissioner McDonough and Commissioner Carter have been part of that. So I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge that, even though Commissioner Carter's announcement was just last week, Commissioner McDonough had announced earlier. I too want to commend Commissioner McDonough for making a stand and doing what you know is right. I was at the Clean Water Council meeting yesterday, and they were talking about how everybody wants to have it be in person again. And I pointed out, and that's the state of Minnesota, so clearly, and the state of Minnesota, the agency folks said, you know what, we're not even giving a potential time yet. We will just see it. We just know we're going to have 30 days notice when we are able to come back together. And I pointed out that it's not about a mandate. It's not about, the inconvenience or wanting to see people, because everybody misses that and wants to have that connection to people. I said, this is about public health. This is about public safety and doing the right thing for the individuals that are around you. And so sometimes that seems to get lost in the conversation, is why. And I think it's important to reinforce that. I mentioned that my brother and sister-in-law are celebrating 50 years. And I did think it was interesting when I was looking at gifts that there are now, and I'm probably going to get them. So, and they're not listening to this. They live up north. So one of their gifts is going to be matching masks that say just married 50 years ago. and I thought, well, how appropriate for 2022. And they'll get something else too, but I just thought that was just hilarious. But again, it's about caring about other people. And that's why we are self-imposing quarantine when we need to, and isolation or not attending things in person that you really don't need to, because you could be harming someone else in addition to your own family, but it's really about other people why we wear the masks. So with that, I do want to say, this has been an incredibly busy week. Just yesterday, we had the Joint Property Tax Advisory Committee, the Clean Water Council meeting, the International Day of Education by Global Minnesota and Mark Ritchie, the Resilient Counties Advisory Board leadership meeting. That was just yesterday. Obviously, I was going back and forth between a number of different things. But the one thing there that I want to highlight, there was a lot to highlight actually, but the Resilient Counties Advisory Board and trying to look at how can we help people and get information out to people. And this was, a lot of things are about climate change, but one of the things that came up, and it is related to disasters that are out there, is food security. There are places across this country when there's a disaster where food is scarce. It's not a food desert. It's about a reaction or resiliency in that. I think it was in California, in the rural areas of California, where they have food coming in on a daily basis. And the reason they have that is because they don't have the cold storage. So they have to literally, for I think it's been 3 years now, they get a daily supply of food that comes into the community. I think it was daily. It may have been weekly, but regardless, it's 3 years after the disaster. So talking about that. Then I guess the only other things that I'd like to mention, there was a lot of activity regarding legislative issues. The Senate hearing, my part of that, the bonding tour, was about the Bruce Vento Trail. And I do want to mention Scott Yonke, who is the leader on the Bruce Vento Trail, because we ended up having such a lively discussion on other items, River's Edge and the park, and how cool that really is and how important it is to our state, not just St. Paul and Ramsey County, but to our state. So we ended up having like 30 seconds to talk about the Rice-Larpenteur Alliance project and the Bruce Vento Trail, but we got it done. But I wanted to recognize Scott. He had put a lot of work into it, and unfortunately they ran out of time. And so I had to do the very quick overview of the project and then have the handout that went with it. The Ramsey County Legal Local Governments met with Senator Chamberlain, and I think Commissioner Fretham was on that call as well. on County Road J. And then finally, the Ramsey County Library Board is the liaison. It's great to be able to report how things are moving forward with the agreement that we have and formalizing that, and that was adopted by the Library Board of Trustees. The 2 new library trustees, I did announce that Commissioner Fretham is the alternate, and how very excited we are to have her there. And it's a great group of people and moving forward. And I'm glad we had a kind of a rocky year last year, trying to figure out how things align between the county and the library board. But we worked through it, and I think we're all better for it. And with that, I'd also like to thank Commissioner Matas Castillo. I'm trying to think who else was on the committee. Commissioner McGuire, and was it Commissioner Carter or Commissioner Fretham? Commissioner Carter. Anyhow, with some of the discussions that were taking place with the library board, it was well worth it. And I think we're really in a good spot and looking at the hiring of the new executive director for the library. I know I missed stuff because it was a whirlwind last week and a lot of things going on. But I just, it's exciting as far as we're moving forward with the legislative session and trying to get as much as before the legislators as we can, because there is such need right now, especially in coming back from COVID-19. I mean, we're still in the middle of it, but trying to rebuild and use those funds that have come to our state, making sure we're using them wisely, and using one-time money the way we need to use one-time money. And that means something that we can invest in for the future and not doing our daily operations, because that isn't sustainable. Okay, I think I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt, for lots of work going on. And I know everyone has been really busy, so thank you all for your work. 3 quick things. As Commissioner McGuire mentioned, I will be presenting on behalf of our board at a field hearing for Representative McCollum. We'll be talking about how we leveraged our ARP funds in order to address the issues of affordable housing in our community, the workforce development work, responding to our public health needs, and racial equity and community engagement. And I would just encourage you, if you all have any specific stories or you want points made, to please share those with me. The hearing is tomorrow. We have about 15 minutes time to present. It's limited in numbers for all of the reasons, but if there are any things you want me to make sure that I address representing the county, or you have specific impact stories, I really believe stories are the most important thing that you want us to raise, please feel free to reach out or to send me an email on those. Also, I wanted to share that I have been making rounds and meeting with all of our mayors across Ramsey County. I'm about halfway through the list and having really great conversations and building relationship with our mayors. And I am hearing consistent themes across the county around areas of public safety and concerns for public safety and how we as a county are addressing it. A lot of conversations around transportation and road work, and housing, of course, and concerns and support for our work on affordable housing, as well as our homeless work. And I'll just also tell you, I'm hearing an overwhelming response to us working on climate. Many of our cities have signed on to a climate resolution this past week. And they're really eager to address the areas of climate. So as we go into our strategic planning session this afternoon and later this morning, talking about climate, just know that we're coming to the table to address this in full support of our communities. And so it's been really great to hear their thoughts and concerns. And we'll share more about that later. And then last point I just wanted to share is, many of us we hear things about staff and the people who work for us and employees. And I got a really nice call about a particular employee that I just want to lift up that often goes unnoticed. And that's Jennifer McConnell. Jennifer is one of our managers of our shelter services. She works at Luther and Mary Hall in management. She was described to me as a manager extraordinaire of our shelter system and has been working there, moved over from social services since the start of the pandemic and our response on shelter services. I've been told that she's reliable and passionate and compassionate, and that our partners, as well as the folks coming in and out of shelter, really, really appreciate the work that she's doing. And I know that the staff there have been doing yeoman's work. They're exhausted, they're tired. It's been a long pandemic for all of us. But just wanted to take a moment to lift up Jennifer McConnell, who is really getting in. When community calls you to say, I want to brag about one of your employees, I think it's really important that we mention that. So just wanted to share that as well. And I also wanted, thanks. We could just pause and, thank you, Jennifer. I doubt she's listening, but maybe one of her supervisors is and can pass that along, because I think it's really important that we lift staff up. And I also, on that note, wanted to share, and Commissioner McDonough didn't say it, but he has himself, along with Deputy Mayor Tincher and our COC staff, did yeoman's work to really address the issues of our homelessness and to lay out a path forward on funding. We heard about that last week. A letter was sent to the governor and his staff yesterday. There was a news article, and just wanted to share that and say thank you, Commissioner McDonough and the COC staff. I think it is really a testament that we are working collaboratively with many partners to address this issue, and that we need to build those supports at the state level as well. So I heard you all have received that in your inbox, and that you also share that and reach out to lawmakers as well. That is really important. So and to your mayors, if you've got other folks that you're representing as well, since I know that they're interested in that. So thank you, Commissioner McDonough and the COC staff on that as well. And with that, we are at the close of our board meeting. I want to just lay out the process for today. We're going to take a break and come back together at 11 to begin our board strategic planning session. We will start, it will be on Zoom. Of course, it will be recorded, but this is our opportunity to really do strategic planning as a board as we think about the year and the time ahead with us. We will have a break for lunch, so we can really dig in, and then a long afternoon of strategic planning. So we'll start with kind of the intro at 11. We'll take a break for lunch and then come back together this afternoon. So with that, we are adjourned. We'll see you at 11.
To cook this and this, two different sized pieces of bio.